Why did the UFC ban these fighters? These legendary fighters got into a mess outside the octagon, flashed guns in Albuquerque, got caught for steroids, and even broke their agreements. And once you get to the end of this video, you'll see why even Dana White had enough of them. First up at number 10, we've got Nick Diaz. He was a fan favorite who got slapped with a 5-year ban for testing positive for marijuana. Yeah, you heard that right. 5 years. That's longer than some guys get for using performance-enhancing drugs. Diaz wasn't having it, calling the punishment cruel and pointing out the hypocrisy of testing for weed when they're not testing for other stuff.
In the afternoon, leading up to this fight that's going to happen at 7 o'clock, I'm like, God, can we just kill some time? Of course you want to smoke some weed. That'll make things a lot better.
Do a lot of guys smoke and then roll? Like they'll do jiu-jitsu, it helps them?
Sure. Before I walk into the gym, I'm going to smoke some weed. I'm like, shit, I'm going to have to wait, or we're going to have to wait until we leave to smoke. Better smoke right now. I mean, yeah, it's just, so what happened with me is when I was a freshman and I was training at the Animal House gym, like back then too, you wouldn't have been able to tell anybody like that you were smoking weed and you're coming. They probably made me leave class as being prejudiced, like, you know. So yeah, when I'd come in, I didn't want no one to know I was fucking lit.
But wait, there's more. Despite Diaz's appeal and a reduction in his suspension, he still couldn't compete because of some hefty fines. Then came Diaz's long-awaited return to the octagon at UFC 266, where he faced off against Robbie Lawler in a rematch 17 years in the making. Things didn't go Diaz's way, and he ended up quitting midway through the fight.
It's always from his heels.
Lawler mixing it up. Nice knee there. Diaz covering up.
Diaz. Oh! Wow. Great combo there by Lawler. Oh!
What a fight. Oh! Right hand connection from Lawler. Lawler wise. That's it. Diaz does not return to his feet.
And now it looks like his fighting days might be over for good. But here's another great fighter who just couldn't stick to it. Number 9, Wanderlei Silva. He was a true legend of Pride FC, known for his aggressive fighting style.
One of these is going to land. One big one is going to land. But these
Back in 2013, Silva was making a comeback, scoring a knockout victory over Brian Stan in Japan.
Shooting shot in from Wanderlei Silva's hands in trouble.
Things were looking up as he secured a gig coaching on The Ultimate Fighter alongside his rival, Chael Sonnen. Silva had pulled from the fight when Sonnen because he forgot to fill out some paperwork to fight in Nevada. No biggie, right? Well, it turns out he also dodged a random drug test from USADA, which is a major no-no in the fight game. Then came September 23, 2014, and Silva was hit with a lifetime ban from the Nevada State Athletic Commission. But a different judge swooped in and overturned that ban in 2015. Silva ended up butting heads with the UFC when he started making some serious accusations about fight fixing. The UFC wasn't having it and slapped him with some legal action for messing with their rep. Silva eventually backtracked on his claims, saying sorry and all that jazz, but it was too late. The UFC cut ties with him, ending his contract for good. Number 8, Jason High. Now, when he first fought in the UFC in 2010, his first promotional debut was a train wreck. He lost badly, and they got rid of him right away. But he worked hard and came with a winning streak in Strikeforce, so Dana White gave him a chance. But the second try at UFC lasted only a short time. Only 4 fights, and that was all within the same year.
And then again, nice. Oh,
big left.
The dimension of the fight. Jason High.
Are you kidding me?
With that left hand, bringing it down.
Mike could have gone a little longer. Maybe I saw it a little different with the ref, but the ref did give him warning. Mike reached.
His last fight was against Rafael Dos Anjos, who became a lightweight champion. Right before the fight, Jason was convinced he'd win and be in the top 10 after winning. Except that didn't happen. He was knocked out in the second round and was dropped immediately. High didn't take this loss very well. He argued with the referee stoppage and even shoved one UFC official. That's when Dana White got pissed because the UFC does not like sore losers. Jason High was released from the promotion and banned for life. Next, number 7, Rousimar Palhares. This guy was a monster on the mat with ground skills that were unbelievable. But Palhares played the game his way too much, often ignoring the universal sign of defeat, the tap out. Holding on to submissions for too long became his signature move, and not in a good way. Take UFC 111 in 2010, for example. He clung to a knee bar on Tomas Drahl even after Drahl tapped, which landed him a 90-day timeout.
He's got it. Tap, 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 tap. Oh. And he's tapping and tapping and tapping, and he's not letting go. He's still yanking. I mean, look how much longer he yanked on it.
Then history repeated itself in 2013 with Mike Pierce. Pierce tapped out from a knee hook, but Palhares wouldn't let go.
Sits in for that leg again. Pierce may be in trouble. Collection of legs back home, and he's out. And how about that?
Forcing the ref to step in yet again. Dana White and the UFC had seen enough. Unwilling to tolerate such behavior, they slapped him with a lifetime ban. It was a tough exit for a seriously talented fighter who just wouldn't play by the book. Number 6, Matt Riddle. You probably know him from WWE, but guess what? He almost made it big in the UFC too. Back in 2008, Riddle got his start on The Ultimate Fighter and fought in the Octagon 13 times over 5 years, securing some pretty impressive wins. Just when he was on a roll, though, the UFC gave him the boot. Not exactly a lifetime ban, but Dana White made it pretty clear Riddle was no longer welcome. Why? Well, Riddle tested positive for cannabis a couple of times, which really didn't sit well with Dana, especially after Riddle was pretty open about his reasons for using it. Dana called him out, not holding back any punches.
Now, the reason he's not in the UFC anymore is because he could not pass a drug test. The guy couldn't pass a drug test. You're so weak-minded and so addicted to marijuana that you couldn't stay off it enough to pass a drug test 3 times a year. Well, guess what, dummy? They drug test in the real world too. And I want to know where this rocket scientist is going to go and make $100,000 a year.
Despite this bump in the road, Riddle was showing some real promise in the welterweight class as a wrestler. It's too bad he didn't get to fully show his skills in the UFC. But life's funny like that. One door closes and another opens. Riddle switched lanes to professional wrestling and has been crushing it in the WWE ever since. At number 5, Diego Brandao. He landed in the spotlight, but not the way you'd want. After a wild night in Albuquerque club that supposedly involved Brandao pulling out a gun, the UFC had no choice but to show him the door. Witnesses said Diego was all over the place, throwing punches and turning the night into chaos. That's definitely not how you'd expect a UFC featherweight champ to act. And guess what? Diego wasn't the only one causing drama. There's also this next fighter, number 4, War Machine. Jonathan Copenhaver, better known as War Machine, burst onto the UFC scene with a knockout win during Ultimate Fighter Season 6 fighting for Team Sierra. He had everyone talking about his debut, but stumbled against Yoshiyuki Yoshida at UFC 84, which turned out to be his last ever UFC fight.
Copenhagen could be out here. Let go.
Next up, he was supposed to be Brandon Wolf, but War Machine wasn't having it, leading to a big fallout with Joe Silva, the matchmaker. When pushed to take the fight or walk away, War Machine dug his heels in, wanting a different matchup. Around the same time, he stirred up controversy with comments about Evan Tanner's passing, adding fuel to the fire. Despite backtracking on those words, the damage was done and the UFC cut him loose. Post-UFC, War Machine tried his luck at Bellator MMA, but his fighting career got overshadowed by legal troubles, culminating in a life sentence after a violent incident with his ex-girlfriend. Next up at number 3, Darrick Minner. Darrick Minner's UFC career was wrecked in 2022, not because of his fighting skills, but a betting scandal with his coach, James Krause. The duo grabbed headlines for all the wrong reasons after a controversy that upended UFC's betting landscape. Krause, known for his betting advice online, and Minner became caught up in a scandal after Minner's quick loss to Shailian Nurandanbike at UFC Fight Night 214, a fight Minner entered with an undisclosed knee injury. The situation escalated when betting odds flipped against Minner last minute, leading to suspicions that he can't bet against him, knowing his compromised state. This resulted in the Nevada Athletic Commission and the FBI getting involved, sidelining both Minner and Krause indefinitely from UFC events and pushing Minner out of the UFC due to the scandal. We certainly can't forget to mention this next fighter though. At number 2, Randy Couture. He was no stranger to success, even bagging a hefty $250,000 plus bonuses for his fights against Tim Sylvia and Gabriel Gonzaga. But here's the thing, he felt shortchanged compared to his fellow fighter Chuck Liddell. Randy aired his grievances, but things soured when he signed a deal with Spike TV without Dana White's blessing. Then came the legal mess, with Randy ultimately leaving UFC in a cloud of controversy. Finally, at number 1, Ruslan Magomedov. Dagestan's next big UFC hope started strong with a 3-0 streak, making everyone think he was headed for the top. But then doping issues ruined Magomedov's career, booting him from the UFC in 2019. First, he got benched for Osterine by USADA in 2016, just as set for a comeback on another test flagged steroid metabolites in 2018. The final nail, refusing a drug test in 2019, earned him a lifetime USADA ban. But Magomedov didn't quit. He shifted to Russia's ACA League in 2019, trying to spark his old fire. Despite his hustle, he couldn't recapture his UFC glory days. So that's all for the UFC's banned fighters. Craving more action? Make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this.